We were bound for the stars. But the stars had other plans for us. Our cities were bright. We were walking in the sunlight. And then... Nimrod struck. Arriving from the stars, the asteroid obliterated our world. Radiation spread, the climate changed, and sea levels increased. The oceans were our demise, but now they're a chance for survival. Beneath the waves, we will find a new home, and you will be there to build it.
Hey guys, Stealth here, and welcome to Aquatico. This game is a underwater city builder. That is the crux of it. As you have seen in the intro, the surface has been a little bit less hospitable than it used to be, and we are now forced to live under the water. Or rather, in the water. What we have here is the map. I went for one of the more challenging starting maps, and there are various maps that you can pick from. Now, all of these different parts of the map, as you can see, they have some slightly different indications or implications to them. So where you deploy your base definitely has an impact. I'm going to go for here because it has a nice bit of room. You are a sea mayor. Yes, that's now a thing. You are in charge of an underwater colony. How you go about that is entirely up to you. The game does a little bit of hand-holding initially in the form of a tutorial, but after that, it just basically goes, you're on your own. Now, when it comes to the HUD, you have a ton of resources in this game, so buckle in. We have cash, food, you have medicine, gotta make sure people get basic goods, and this is again subdivided in clothes, furniture, and decoration. Luxury, hold on to your horses here, because we got cider, beer, jewelry, holocom, spices. There's a ton of resources that you need to manage. Batteries and sponges, plastics, tools, iron, stone, quartz, glass, and concrete. Running an underwater colony is not easy. You need a ton of stuff. We're not even done there, because you also got electricity, crude oil, fuel, and naturally oxygen. Because that is something that is really quite precious underwater. We have currently 2 residents, and I don't have any housing, so let's get to work on that. Currently, I do have a lot of drones, 12 of them. And these guys are going to be constructing all of my buildings, and you can see them here. These are my little drones, and until you give them an order, or until they have something to do, like build a building, they're just kind of casually floating about. We also have a couple of influence points. Now, with the base, you can add directives, and these are going to impact how your society runs. So you can say, you know what, I want to have a specific clinical care area. This has to be researched. It will give your clinic a higher efficiency. It's also going to cost you, and it's going to cost you a bunch of money. So these are like policies that you can implement. And then finally, we have happiness. How happy are your workers? How happy are your residents? Keep them happy, and they will provide a stable community. Make them unhappy, and you might find that they're not as, well, let's say as willing to cooperate as you might like. Bottom right-hand side holds all the buildings, and there are a ton. When it comes to domes, there isn't that much. You got small, medium, big. Public buildings, a depot, trade port, expedition house. Yes, you can go on expeditions around your base and pick up resources from the various environments. Rescue center, because there are potentially survivors, and you can bring those into the colony. And thereby get a nice bit of growth to your colony. Again, you gotta research that. And same for the warehouse. Production buildings. Holy crap, does this game have a lot of production buildings. At the start, none of them are going to be open, because you have to research every single one. The game does give you, I think, 2 or 3, but, well, the game doesn't open up every one until you research them. Security buildings. This means there can be an outside threat. We've got a guardhouse, we've got a defense platform, and even a torpedo platform. So prepare to repel invaders. Infrastructure in the form of nav signs, pipelines, these are basically your roads connecting everything from oxygen, oil and fuel. And finally, a maintenance depot. And then you can just clear the buildings out. So what we're going to do is make sure that we follow the tutorial. It just says go towards the bar, and let's have a look at the first building. This is the Gatherer's Place. A hub for crews gathering edible maritime fauna like mussels, sea snails and sea cucumber. Hope you like seafood, otherwise you've come to the wrong game. Now I'm going to place these things in no particular order, no particular location, just insofar as I have room. Let's speed up the construction and progress. Before I forget to mention it, the key was provided by the developers at my request, so thank you very much to the developers for giving me the key. Now, we have a jobs board, and good lord, do you thankfully not have to manage any of this all by yourself. You can, you don't have to. There are a ton of jobs, from drone producer to squid hunter to plastic factory drone to carpenter drone to programmer. There's a lot of stuff to do. Ideally, you just tick this once and you forget about it. You can micromanage this as much as you like, but you really don't have to. So just automatically assign the workforce, and these jobs are going to get filled in as you have enough workers, that is. That is rather required. We're going to need a sponge collector. Plants and sponges need to be gathered for plastics. Everything is going to be built up out of plastics, and depending on where you place your building, you can see that the work efficiency goes up or down. These buildings ideally sit, of course, in a, let's say, above 100% area. I think 125 is about the best you can get. So let's place this here and start getting that sponge farm operational. Run it. Here come the drones. This guy's going to deliver some resources and commence construction. Or at least I thought they would do that. There we go. Okay, now that we have that thing ready, we now need an oil platform. Robotic rig extracts crude oil from the surrounding seabed. Again, placement matters. We get a whole bunch of 50%ers here. There are definitely areas where they do better. It's just that I don't actually have any of these areas around. Especially not around my main base. So we're just going to have to suck it up that it's not going to be the most efficient building that we have. It's not ideal, but so be it. I'm going to keep a 3-block space in between that. And we're also going to set up a fuel refinery. Turns crude oil into fuel. Very useful to keep everything going. There we go. Now this does mean that not everything has power yet, so that is going to be the next order of business. Connect everything up with a pipeline and ensure that everything has power. Now you see all these circles on the edges of the buildings? This is where you can connect one thing to another. The pipeline now makes sure that the oil platform brings its oil directly to the fuel plant. So this way you could just easily connect things up. Now that this is done, we are almost ready to keep going, but this one has an exclamation mark. Why? Well, we still need to make sure it has power, and it currently doesn't have any. We also have a detriment of crude oil, and this is not exactly going to get any better without doing production boosts. This is going to give me plus 20% production, so make sure you use this on the buildings that might already be doing well, like this one. This is currently running at 125, and you can run another production boost to make sure it goes up to a greater efficiency. Select and place a plastic factory on the seabed. Very well. Time to get the plastic factory going. With the entrance right over there. And these things use sponges harvested by this thing in order to function. So best make sure that they're not too far apart, because I do believe that resources get stored over here and then get moved over to the building that actually needs them. As my drones are working on this construction, I can also show you that you can paint your own buildings. And this is quite useful because it allows you to set a color per building and thus make it, for example, really easy to say, okay, all buildings of this type are going to be black, all these are going to be red, all these are going to be blue. And you can very easily find them. So that is quite a nice way of making it easier for you as a player to figure out what goes where, and potentially whether you have one of those buildings already, because you can also apply to the same type or apply to all. So again, very nice, let's say, building sorting feature. We need to connect the plastics factory, so time to go back and use the tubes. And this needs to be connected to, I believe, the refinery. Oh, it has to be connected to the existing pipeline. Now, I cannot connect it here because this thing is kind of part of the building, so we're gonna have to go from here and then there and then connect it up. Done. Harvest the designated resources. Drag a box around the area that you want to harvest. So let's say you have a bunch of resources that you want to pick up and easily make your own. You can do that by using the gather stone, iron and plastic and say, I just want this whole bit. And the drones are going to pick it up and store it for you. As they're busy on that, we're going to go to the research screen. And holy crap, like there is a ton of resources, there's a ton of research as well. This thing goes on and on and on. The latest, or last research, the subsurface base 5, takes 52 of in-game days to complete. So you're going to be there a while. The earlier ones, fortunately, don't take nearly as many, and in 5 days we can have the tidal turbine. This one is going to allow us to get some power, and as that is being researched, we're going to focus on a place to live. Now, what I find really interesting is that the way that the game does this is you have a sort of secondary layer to the map. And what I mean by that is I have this dome. The dome is a sort of secondary layer because this thing sits on the bottom where you can connect it to, let's say, your industrial buildings. And once this thing is done, we can actually start building houses inside it, but on a different layer. So it's like you are already working on, well, not strictly 2 different maps, but definitely 2 different layers of the same map. Here we go. You can now no longer really see a lot what under there, because we're focused on this hub. Time to build 2 houses. Go for the standard housing, and these 2 have a requirement. You gotta be within that area, of course, and you gotta make sure that these people can actually leave. So try and rotate your house in such a fashion that they can actually do that. I misplaced that one. Now, I would very much like to cancel that, but beyond just dozing it, I'm not sure if I can. Nope. I think the game doesn't allow me to do that, simply because we are part of the tutorial. Open up the research screen and research the oxygen generator tool. If I were starting a colony underwater, I'd probably do it in reverse. Set up an oxygen generator first, and then start bringing in people. Otherwise, it might be a really short-lived expedition for your workers. Now, I only have 2 workers right now, 2 residents. You can see them walking about here, and these people each have their own needs. This guy's an engineer. He has all his needs met currently. And I suspect we're kind of in a, let's say, a grace period, where the game doesn't throw you all sorts of challenges and goes, oh, they're cold, oh, they don't have housing, oh, they don't have a nice environment to live in. I think we're in a grace period right now. What you can see here is that he's an engineer, and he's going to become a specialist when the progress bar reaches the upper marker. He's only 25 years old, this guy named Xander, and he makes 180 bucks a year. Whether that's a lot or a little, I don't know. And whether or not it scales up when they get progressively better at their job, I don't know either. I think it would be fair if we do get a bit more funding for those guys. Well, I mean, if they get more funding. I can see that they have these little doors on the side of the hub. I suppose, or hope rather, there's an elevator. And then they can get into their habitat. It does irk me that this building is misplaced. But yeah, no, it looks like you just cannot remove this building, or I don't know how. Because clicking on it and hitting delete doesn't do it, and clear buildings and resources doesn't do it either, because the tool is disabled when you're looking at the hub. So hopefully that's something that's still going to get patched out. Select tab to go between the ground and the dome view. Yes, we've done that. And you can also see that with these houses, I can again paint them, and I can also give them, for example, pet feeders. I can go to a higher tier of housing. I can also insulate them to make sure that they don't use as much fuel. Especially good with the high fuel prices. Now, the oxygen plant and the tidal turbine have been researched. So let's get this connected to the grid. You don't need to have a lot of clearance with these things. Or at least not what I've found. You just need to build them. Where they eventually get built doesn't really matter. You just gotta have a bit of an idea that these things do need to get connected to the grid, or they won't provide any power. So whereas, let's say with a usual city builder, you have power lines and then sewage lines or something like that, this game only treats it as you got pipelines, period. There's no other thing that you need to focus on. Oxygen generator. Chemically turns seawater elements into breathable air. Yeah, I think that they would be really happy if I actually get one of these buildings. And make sure that it is connected to everything else. There. Okay, boys, let's build that up. And let's make sure that we have at least the basic resources going. I'm still running a deficit for crude oil. Because this thing is generating some fuel. It's just not generating as much as it could. Because we don't have enough oil coming in. So in this case, having one of these oil platforms, which is only running at 50%, doesn't exactly do me any favors. And I could upgrade the production. I'm not sure if that's a good idea yet, because I don't have a lot of plastics. I got 253. I am getting some, but monthly production versus monthly use is not exactly balanced, so I'm going to forego that upgrade for the time being. Now, connect the tidal turbine, oxygen generator, and a fuel refinery with a single pipeline. This is more of a test than anything else, because I think I've already done that. I believe everything is connected. So I'm not sure what else that they want me to do. It just doesn't exactly seem like I need to do additional pipelines. This one's connected, the oxygen generator is connected, and the fuel refinery is over there and is also connected. Now that we have everything connected, let's do some more research. We're going to go for the battery factory. Allows construction of industrial complex that produces universal batteries. Thank God there is no specific type of battery. No AA, no AAA, no D-type, nothing. You don't need to worry about that. Sometimes things don't go according to plan, and as you can see here, we got a pipeline socket that is malfunctioning. So let's repair that socket, and as opposed to surviving Mars, for example, this thing happens instantly, which is really convenient, considering that you can lose a ton of resources in the time that it takes to repair it. Again, it might have been a grace period as part of the tutorial, it might not. I'm not exactly sure. This one's running at 95% efficiency because we don't have enough resources. We're not getting enough fuel. The total upkeep from the pipeline is 57, so yeah, the amount of pipeline stuff that I have is just too many. Can I remove some? No. Demolish pipeline. Here we go. Let's see if that reduces the use a bit. Now we got one thing that's not connected. Does this make it any better? No. The pipeline's just expensive. Okay, select and place a battery factory on the seabed. Let's go and find a good spot for this big guy. Right over there, perhaps. And, of course, connect it. This marks the end of the step-by-step tutorial. As a final word of warning, watch out for the notifications and warnings that the game sends your way and act on challenges in a timely manner. Dear Sea Mayor, good luck in building a prosperous underwater colony. So, from here, no further hand-holding. It is entirely up to us. What is going to happen next? Well, what I'd like to do is make sure that we have enough resources to get everything powered. So, how are we doing for this? Well, we're producing a bit more, but we have a deficit in power, we have a deficit in crude oil, a deficit in fuel. So, first things first, juice. I want more tidal turbines. Let's build another one and connect that to the grid. I'm sure there are already perfectly laid out plans about how to best go about this, but I am not that organized when it comes to these buildings yet. Okay, that should take care of my power issues. There we go. Now, crude oil, I believe, is the problem, and that is causing a lack of fuel. So let's see if I can get another one of these oil rigs built. It might not exactly be cheap. Nah, it's going to cost me 25 and 30. It's fine. It's not as expensive as I was worrying. Yeah, place it on a crude oil-rich area to increase its efficiency. I'm not even sure if we have any of that on the map here. This is a much better spot. New people have arrived at your colony. New Atlantis HQ has sent them to assist with our daily tasks. We should put them to good use as soon as possible. Yeah, we're also going to need a house for them, because right now they don't have anywhere to live. 1, 2. Alright. Now, we're going to have to drag a lot of pipeline over here, but it should immediately fix most of our issues. At least such is my hope. Go on. Drag this one here. What I really appreciate about this game is that it does not force you to first unlock a new area. It just goes, oh, you want to build there? Cool, let's do it. And yes, it might take your drones a little while longer to get there, but it's not that bad. I mean, it works. You don't have to worry about it. And there we go. Now we got a ton of fuel coming in. Or crude oil. We got more fuel being produced than we need. And we have more oxygen being produced than we need. So let's have a look at the research tree. What comes next? Drone factories or oil imperium combo. Fuel refinery in proximity of oil platforms gain 10% production bonus. Could be useful. I want to get more drones though. And that is going to be the project for the next 7 days. Right, where to go from here? I don't strictly need another small dome yet. If I can boost my plastics plants, I think that'd be great. So let's focus on that. I can not go for an expansion module because I don't have enough plastic anymore. But a production boost does not cost plastic, it just costs sponges, which we are getting, and we're not using that many of them. So let's give this thing a production boost, and now we're going to go to 216. I can do that again. We're going to go to 252, and I can optimize it so it doesn't cost me as much. And the upkeep is 120 sponges a year. This is, again, output per year, not per month. The game takes place over a much longer period of time. And it's going to cost me 60 fuel, so that's minus 10. I think that is a worthwhile upgrade, getting a bit less of that. So now we should be getting a ton of sponges and also a lot more plastics produced than we're actually going to be using, or at least that's the idea. Let's progress a little bit more, research some more stuff, and we're going to keep building out this base. A little while later, I've built a bit more of my constructions. I have built a secondary fuel refinery, but more interestingly, I have, of course, a depot. Got to store some stuff, and I'm able to build more drones. Now, building a drone is not a fast endeavor. This thing takes 64 days to complete. So optimizing, making sure it uses less, or that the production speeds up, in this case, is definitely worth it, because we're going to go from 63 or 64 to 53 days, so that's definitely a nice bonus. What I'm running into now is that I'm starting to run into tool requirements, not on just this one building, but also when it comes to this guy. It says, I need tools. So the game does force you to keep researching, if you want to keep upgrading. I can go for bigger housing, trade ports. I eventually want to get an iron mine, because I don't have that much iron left, and there we find the tool factory. So eventually, you're going to go through the tech tree, eventually you're going to progress. Something I'm really interested in is, how does it work with the ability to go on expeditions? The ability to build central bases for our brave explorers. Okay, cool, but what are they going to explore? I don't know. So let's just keep researching and keep going through the tree. And make sure that we find out a bit more about potentially a backstory in the game. Because I'm not sure if there is any. That's kind of it's kind of a lack in my experience, because I'm going, okay, yeah, it's a nice relaxed city builder, but why am I here? I mean, yes, I know we got hit by an asteroid or a meteor or whatever. The surface was devastated. But it's not like you're really working towards something. It feels really, really sandboxy at the moment. And that's something I think is a bit of a miss in this game. I like the art style. I like just the relaxing underwater atmosphere that you have. No pun intended. But without a story, or at least one that I've been able to discern, it seems a bit empty. It seems a bit quiet. So I hope that that's something that, well, either you can add yourself, or that it's something that's going to get added by the developers at a later date. I'm not sure though, because I do believe it's been created by a fairly small studio, and building a whole campaign / story probably takes quite a lot of resources. So this, at least in its early stages of my little base, is Aquatico. You can get a lot more of the map built. You can build anywhere, like I said, so don't feel limited that you gotta have everything here, you gotta have everything there. You decide. It's your underwater colony. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make this into a series, because I don't know, it's just gonna be a city builder. I'm not sure if it's going to be that interesting to watch, but you guys be the judge. Let me know down below in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed Aquatico's preview here / review, and I'll see you soon for more videos.